The UNFCCC is the Framework Convention on Climate Change. It's basically created to be the main body to address the issue, the global important issue of climate change. So it's part of three other conventions. One deals with biodiversity, the other one with desertification. So the UNFCCC is the umbrella for dealing with issues of climate change. I started off in developing methodologies, technical guidelines on how to develop national adaptation plans, and then that transitioned into how to address losses and damages after impacts happen, and then more recently trying to tie all of that together in terms of how should concrete targets be achieved to address adaptation and loss and damage. So for the last 20 years, I've been working mostly on adaptation issues, both from a focus on the least developed countries, but also now more broadly to all developing countries, and connecting that with loss and damage and how to fund approaches to address the loss and damage in the context of the international agreements. That's an important question. The major difference is that global warming causes climate change, and that's a result of various emissions, carbon dioxide and various other emissions. So mitigation is really an attempt to reduce and avoid additional emissions that would then result in additional climate changes. That's mitigation. Adaptation, on the other hand, are now the efforts to prepare society and different systems to anticipate climate changes and be able to reduce their vulnerabilities, build resilience, and so forth. So the two things are connected. Obviously, it's super important to mitigate and succeed in mitigation. So over the long term, 50, 100 years from now, we will have stabilized global climate change to a point where now society can adapt and cope with the changes. So adaptation, on the other hand, then this depends to a great deal to the amount of mitigation, but also there is a fair amount of adaptation that's necessary regardless of success in mitigation. An additional component to adaptation now is the fact that adverse impacts will happen regardless of success in mitigation. So hence the topic of loss and damage that now addresses impacts after they happen, while adaptation really prepares society in anticipation of those losses. In the last few years, we've seen the emergence of young people being very active in the policy discussions, both as youth, but also as children. So these two groups have emerged as an important stakeholder group that are contributing to the discussions, but also raising the awareness that their needs will be important in the coming years, and policy does need to take them into account and be part of the solution. So it's always a pleasure to come and hear young people and some of the questions that they have as they broaden their knowledge about what is possible in the coming years. Well, the last few years I've seen a lot of opportunities for young people to contribute either through events and workshops within the bigger conference, where they come and express their views and what they're doing in order to contribute to solving the problem. So we're starting to see a lot of that more formally, where youth representatives are actually part of the official meetings, where they're invited to speak and contribute their views in helping frame policy. So a lot of governments now are starting to include youth delegates as part of their groups that go officially to represent their country. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot more of these, where young people and children in particular are also part of those national delegations, and they help raise the awareness to the importance of addressing climate change seriously.